All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Egolf. I am the Speaker of the House in the state of New Mexico. And I'm really glad that folks could join us today because we are doing a little bit of a different format this week. You've been with us almost every Wednesday at 3 for the last several months since the COVID-19 pandemic hit in New Mexico, and we started our Town Hall from Home series. We're going to do it a little differently this week, and I think every other week for the next several months, and that is finding a way to continue the work of what we have called our Jobs Listening Tour. We started this in the deep of the winter in 2016, and have gone all over the state of New Mexico, meeting with economic development officials, local government officials, business owners to find new and innovative ways that the state legislature, working with the governor, can provide support and help to small business and in the effort of economic diversification. We had committed to making a trip to every county in New Mexico by the end of the year. And then the pandemic hit, and that made it impossible to do in person. So we are going to be doing it virtually. And we're starting today with McKinley County, New Mexico. And we're calling it our Economic Recovery Tour because we know that the consequences of COVID-19 and the necessary closures and the effect they're having on business are having a really just devastating effect. There is light at the end of the tunnel as we see the numbers relating to COVID-19 and its spread in New Mexico begin to improve. But starting today with McKinley County, we're going to be visiting with a community that has been especially hard hit, both the city of Gallup and the surrounding Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation, if it were a state, it would have the highest per capita impact of COVID-19 of any state in the country. One of the highest, if it were a separate independent country, it would be at the top of the list as well. So the impacts there are especially difficult. And the city of Gallup, which serves the economic needs of so many in the nation, has been hard hit as well. We're also joined right now by two of my colleagues in the House, Representative Harry Garcia and Representative Leo Cohn from Grants and Milan, who represent large areas of the Navajo Nation. So I want to make sure I welcome them at the beginning. And we're going to start today with County Commissioner Bill Lee of McKinley County and Mayor Louis Bonaguidi, the new mayor of the city of Gallup. I think he's been mayor for 3 or 4 months, who, as one of his first acts as mayor, was seeking the invocation, I believe for the first time ever, of the Riot Act to help control the flow of population in and out of the city of Gallup. So I'd like to start, Commissioner and Mr. Mayor, if you could tell us a little bit about what life is like now in Gallup and McKinley County as compared to what we saw on the news in those urgent reports of several months ago, and some ideas for things that you'd like to see coming out of state government, coming out of the legislature to help you with the economic recovery of your community. And Mr. Mayor, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Commissioner Lee.
Okay. Well, I guess I could expand a little bit on the history of what we went through. On May 1st was my first day on the job as mayor. And that morning I got a call from the governor congratulating me that I was the new mayor, and then informing me that the state police were on their way down to block off our city. And so that's the way I got started. At that particular time, we have 2 hospitals. Their beds were full, and we were converting a high school into a hospital. We were at the rate of about 110 cases a day, and it wasn't getting any better. But the blockade did educate a lot of people in this community, and I think in the Navajo and the Zuni reservation for sure. I noticed that the last time the governor made a press conference, she pointed out that the Northwest New Mexico's numbers were going down and the rest of the state was going up. And I would gladly say the past 2 days we've had like 2 and 3 cases. of the virus. So in a sense, we have educated the people in this community. I mean, I think we're somewhat ahead of the curve everywhere you go, whether it's the supermarket, Walgreens, or whatever. Everybody is wearing masks. We were also the first in the states that mandated masks for anyone going into the essential or any of the businesses for that matter. At this point anyway, the high school has been converted back to a high school. They've eliminated that as a hospital, but we still do have somewhat of a problem. The problem we have is our street people. Basically, we put them with the governor's help. We put them in motels. At one point we had 150 in motels to try to keep them off the streets so that they wouldn't congregate and spread. But even at this point, we've got 110 in the motels, but we're still having a problem in that area of street people basically panhandling and mingling among themselves. So again, we're concerned about that being the spread of the virus. With that being said, actually, I'd like to turn over to Mr. Lee, because he was also instrumental in everything that we've done, and he's also the county commissioner. So definitely we had to work together. So Bill?
And I failed to mention, Commissioner, you're also the Gallup McKinley County Chamber of Commerce Chair. Is that correct?
Yeah, President and CEO of the
President,
chamber.
CEO, yeah. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Please take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Speaker. And we appreciate you taking time to listen to us here today. I guess I'll just say that I'm first of all very proud of our community and Gallup and McKinley County for the efforts that they've taken during this pandemic. Being involved in the business community as I am as well, I'm really particularly proud of our small businesses who are doing the best they can and being as resilient as they possibly can, finding ways to pivot, change their business models, and still provide jobs and a way of life for themselves. And it is not easy during this time. And I appreciate your asking how the legislature can help at this time. And Speaker, I think one of the things that I wanted to highlight was, many of our other states around the nation were able to put together grant opportunities through CARES Act funding for our small businesses. And I realized that the legislature during the special session did an excellent job of putting together the Small Business Recovery Act for the state of New Mexico. And that's a good loan program. I've talked with lenders in our community who are planning on participating. I know that program opened up today. And even at the low interest rates and the possibility of obtaining that money, I still hear from the business community that they're rather reluctant during this time to take on more debt. Now, I do know that the cities and counties are going to be applying for that $150 million of CARES Act funding, $100 million that will be going to cities and counties across the state, and then $50 million in grant money for our businesses. But I know that $50 million will not come close to meeting the needs. When I look at other states around the country who have provided $300 or $400 million of CARES Act funding in grant opportunity for businesses, I'm hopeful that the legislature will find a way to possibly stretch that CARES Act funding that we receive and offer more grant opportunities as opposed to loans, especially for those small businesses that didn't qualify for any of the EIDL or Paycheck Protection Program loans. Those gaps will be needed to, that money will be needed to fill those gaps rather. And so we're concerned about that. I know our business community is also increasingly concerned. As you mentioned, Speaker, and you're well aware of where we are in our region, much of our workforce comes from the Navajo Nation when it comes to our small businesses in Gallup and McKinley County. And so being able to work cooperatively with the Navajo Nation and keep our workforce healthy is particularly tough. But again, I'm very proud of the way our business community has approached this and our community at large, really. It's very rare that you go anywhere in Gallup and McKinley County that you don't see people wearing masks and taking the precautions, observing the social distancing rules and that sort of thing. We've done a pretty good job. And by and large, our community has been kind to each other, understanding that this may be the new way forward and that we've all just got to be kind and work together. But as I look at what may be headed our way, basically with those who are unemployed, and the fact that we hear news that the state's unemployment insurance fund is going to be basically insolvent maybe by September, and that the state's looking to possibly have to go to the Fed to borrow that money. That concerns our small business owners because we know ultimately that may mean a pretty heavy tax increase on them to make that program whole. So there's a concern about that, and I don't know how the legislature plans to address that. I know that there are also, in this day of COVID-19 operations, many of our businesses are also concerned about the liability issue which they may face. Taking temperatures and having entire teams and staffs aware of people's medical conditions is problematic in some ways, and being able to protect the business owner who's just simply trying to do the right thing and protect his staff, I think needs to be looked at and talked about as well. And then on top of that, we know that in January, we've got another minimum wage increase that's going to hit from the legislation that took place a couple of years ago. And not saying that we didn't need that and that it's not important, but when you combine all of these things, there's a very big storm headed our way for New Mexico businesses. And these are all things that I think that the legislature can deal with. And so with that, I'll turn things over. I've probably talked long enough. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. And we've been joined, I want to point out, by Representative Patty Lundstrom, our Appropriations Committee Chair, as well as Representative Wanda Johnson, our caucus chair in the State House. And I'll mention for those watching today, the Small Business Recovery Loan Fund went active. It's at NM, like for New Mexico, nmfinance.com. That's where you start the application process. It's very streamlined and it's up and running today. And also, Commissioner, I'll point out, in the bill that created the Small Business Recovery Loan Fund, we had a provision specifically targeted at the concerns of small business relating to unemployment. So the unemployment, the Workforce Solutions Department is not allowed to use data during the COVID period when calculating assessments against small business. So small businesses are protected from unemployment claims affecting their rates through the end of the year. And if we need to address that again in January, we certainly will. But it's a good point, and we were able to take a look at that in the last session. We have been joined. So before I go to the SBDC folks, I'm going to jump back in our agenda and recognize Delegate Mark Freeland, member of the Council of the Navajo Nation. Delegate Freeland, would you like to share with us some information about your work and how things are going in the nation now, and as compared to maybe a few months ago, and some of the ways that we might be able to be of assistance in a government-to-government way?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the call, and thank you for all of the Mr. Mayor and Mr. Lee, Commissioner Lee, Representative Lundstrom, Representative Johnson, my sister. Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing us to be on the call as well. We just got done on the Navajo Nation, as a member of the Navajo Nation Council. I represent 8 communities in McKinley and San Juan counties. I'm actually on my way back down from San Juan County back into McKinley. I represent Crown Point, Nahadishkish, which is Dalton Pass, Standing Rock, Vicente, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herfino, and Naizi. So 4 of my chapters are in McKinley County and the other 4 in San Juan. But I was just going to mention that we recently completed 4 days of debates, 4 days of amendments on our CARES Act legislation, our CARES Act funding. We appropriated $650 million of $714 million that the nation received. Of that, we appropriated expenditures for our water projects, $130 million. A little over $130 million went to water projects. Other expenditures included for power line projects, $44.2 million. We had telecommunication broadband, which is about $68.2 million. Other expenditures include our solid waste. We have a huge concern regarding solid waste and illegal trash dumping on the nation. So we appropriated some funds in the amount of $23.9 million. Other appropriations included our payroll reimbursement at $90 million. Navajo Gaming, our one of our enterprises, our flagship, is right there at the doorstep to Gallup. Our flagship, a Fire Rock Casino, along with the Northern Edge Flowing Water and the casino out in Arizona, Twin Arrows, $24.6 million was appropriated, and we did this, of course, to avoid over 1,100 layoffs of our Navajo Gaming employees. All of our casinos are still closed down at this time because of the health order on the Navajo Nation. The President, Jonathan Nez, did extend that health order through August 17th, so our casinos are still closed, and I believe we're still looking for some funds to pay our employees. Navajo Parks and Recreation received $828,000. Office of the Controller received a little over $20 million for quality assurance. So that kind of gives you a breakdown of what we were looking at as far as our CARES Act money is concerned. I mentioned the flagship of Fire Rock Casino. And at this time of year, I always think of the Gallup Inter-Tribal Indian Ceremonial, and I think of the time in Gallup, and I think of the atmosphere and what it brings, and economically. I'm going to miss the ceremonial this year. I think we'll be back stronger than ever, hopefully next year. But I just wanted to mention that it's always a great time of the year, just whenever the ceremonial comes around. I wanted to mention as well, Mr. Speaker, and everyone on this call, I did raise a concern to the governor's office. This concern was brought to my attention by my colleagues from the Arizona side. And when the governor had announced that out-of-state visitors quarantine for 14 days, the Navajo Nation encompasses 3 states. There's New Mexico, there's the Arizona portion, and Utah portion. But, we have a lot of our Navajo people who travel into Gallup from the Arizona side, from Window Rock or Ganado or Chinle, to get their goods and to rely on goods and services within the Gallup area. So economically, the people come across the state line into Gallup, or whether it be up in Farmington as well. A lot of our people come from the Arizona side, the Four Corners, or even from Utah. My question to the governor's office was, how are our Navajo people being looked at? Do they have to quarantine themselves for 14 days if they're from Arizona or Utah? Do they have to quarantine themselves? Even myself, if I go to Window Rock on travel business, do I have to go into quarantine because I went into Arizona? These were never issues that were never clarified, and I know, it really raised a concern for a lot of myself and my colleagues, because we weren't given any real clear indication as to how the state was going to perceive that. So at some point, I hope to get an answer, or we hope to get an answer. But we really wanted just to clarify how that was being perceived by the state. Economically, we're okay. We're doing fine. We're in the midst of our establishment of a comprehensive budget for fiscal year 2021. Our enterprises, we're looking at our enterprises. we're also looking at new opportunities for growth economically on the nation. We did close you probably heard, we did have a closure of the Navajo generating station and Kayenta mine. So we took a $40 million hit in our annual budget. But luckily we do have some backup reserves that we can rely on for at least another year or two. But we're trying to be proactive economically as how we can plug that $40 million hole, but also create new revenue sources as well. So those are the kinds of things we're looking at from the nation. We want to continue to partner, of course, with the City of Gallup, McKinley County, as well as City of Farmington and San Juan County. We've got great partnerships at the county levels and, of course, at the city levels. And I'm glad Mr. Mayor brought up the issue of our relatives on the street. There was a huge concern that was brought up by the Indian Health Service, Navajo area, and how we can combat that. Another big factor to COVID positivity cases was intergenerational homes, having our Navajos live together, grandmas and grandpas living with their children and their grandchildren under one roof. And that caused a lot of a high volume of positive cases. So I just wanted to give you an update and let you know where we stand from the nation's side. The president did relax. This is the first of hopefully many relaxations of the 57-hour curfews coming up this weekend. 32 hours, he reduced it from 57 to 32 hours. So Saturday we won't have a curfew, but we will have a curfew beginning Saturday evening at 9 p.m. That's going to last until Monday at 5 a.m. And I understand the president stated it was going to be a case-by-case basis. So really want to thank the president for leading us in that. He also moved the daily curfews back from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. It used to be from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. So he moved that back an hour as well. Looking at our overall cases, the situation on the nation seems to be leveling out, where our positive cases from the service units and our reports from our health command seem to be we're kind of at a mediation and moderate situation right now in our caseload. So that's why the president relaxed the curfew. The hot spot, of course, was Arizona, down in Phoenix and Maricopa County. We were really concerned about that. A lot of our Navajo people being down there. Bernalillo County also started picking up as well in the Albuquerque metro area. So we're kind of watching that as well. I'm really proud of what the mayor and Mr. Commissioner Lee also had mentioned, as far as a lot of people wearing masks in the proximity of the city of Gallup, and that's absolutely true. I go into Gallup. I actually go to TNR, and I go into Gallup and get goods myself and groceries. But I do see a lot of our people wearing masks out there. So I'm proud to say they are following the guidelines. They're practicing social distancing to an extent, but we could always do better. For myself,
Delegate Freeland, let me, if I could jump in just for 1 second. We've been joined by Vice President Leiser, and I think we want to give him a chance to offer a few thoughts. And we've got some of the small business development folks that want to have a few words as well. So if I could interrupt just for a moment, if that's all right, to recognize Vice President Myron Leiser.
Oh, Yate, can everybody see me here?
We can see a picture of you in a football uniform.
Ah.
Mr. Vice President, we can hear you if you have a few thoughts to share with us about how things are going on in the nation.
Okay. Yeah, I should be fixing that here real quick. I'm using my staff, Adam McGay's login here, as my other phone is got another call in. But I appreciate the opportunity here to just chime in here. I do apologize for being late. I'm just wondering, I guess, if I should, there we go.
There you go.
There we go. Here I am. Appreciate it, Mr. Speaker. Egolf, since the last time I saw you, it was about a little bit more than a year ago. And, you know, the Navajo Nation, I heard the Honorable Delegate Freeland was giving you updates on there, so I don't want to be redundant. I simply, I guess, the economic development portion here, some of the things that we have been working on, President Jonathan Nez and I did sign a MOU with San Juan County and the Four Corners Economic Development team there, and we are desiring to work with the state of New Mexico and you know, get a study done on the railroad there from probably right around south of Farmington, right around Napi, the Navajo agriculture products industry, as it does sit in a opportunity zone, and then work southward towards Gallup through the 491 corridor, which I think would be a little bit cheaper than going through the 371 corridor. That's just on kind of a quick and dirty analysis as you know, being a businessman. Savings would be 30 million right up front on the not having to build a bridge there on the canyon there, coming just north of Theru and south of Crown Point. But that's a measure that we look to, I guess, facilitate Nez administration. So since I have all of you esteemed people and business and economic development on this phone call, and definitely the legislature, state legislator of New Mexico, and Speaker Egolf, you know, we look forward to working with you. Should anybody have any questions on that, the railroad, we can certainly answer those questions, and with what the knowledge we have presently, but we also, you know, would look to, I guess, scale that railroad with a cracker plant, a shell cracker plant, much like the one in Pennsylvania, where they develop plastic pellets that go into our everyday household items here. As you know, China has been compromised now, and a lot of our goods are made in China, manufacturing made in China. So what with this present administration, you know, President Trump is bringing the manufacturing back to the United States. Well, we're saying the Navajo Nation is over here. We have all this land. We have all these resources. We have the need for jobs. And we would love to help the state of New Mexico, along with the southeastern New Mexico, develop this shell cracker plant. And so we need the jobs. We need the industry. What with NGS, the page generating station closing, we lost 700, 800 jobs there. And the Peabody mine closed in Kayenta, we lost additional jobs there. So about 1,200 jobs have been lost. What with the potential closure real soon of Choya outside of Winslow and Escalante outside of Grants, and even those two up in San Juan County, Four Corners power station, and also San Juan generating station. We are in real danger of losing a middle class here in our region. So we certainly need to work with you all and develop any kind of synergies through our collaborating partners, whether it's the counties and definitely the Navajo Nation and maybe some of our other tribal nations in and around the region, to work with local municipalities to fashion, I guess, economic benefit for all: jobs, revenue, taxes. You know, we could go on and on about how this trickle down effect would help our economies. But to that, I guess the railroad is one thing, and then also there's the great need to, you know, I guess look for any and all opportunities that this pandemic is bringing to the forefront. As you know, in any pandemic or crisis, there's always an opportunity. And so we're out there, we're meeting with those managers and the CEOs of all the local entities that we can meet with, and looking to see what they see. One thing I have honed over the years as a businessman here on Navajo Nation is that the entrepreneurial spirit that is out there, they're leaving no stone unturned, and they're looking to partner with maybe even one time, you know, these partnerships never really were thought to be that strong or be that viable. Now I think this pandemic is changing our mindsets. So now maybe we can develop some type of a relationship with municipalities, with local governments, and even tribal nations as to what we can fashion to help our economy and to recover safely and onto the next, I guess, generation, right? All of the youngsters that we have in our high schools taking advantage of the STEM programs right now, well, they'll be our next leaders here real soon. All the engineers, the scientists, and what with maybe some new technologies that might be developed here, what with the coal and the natural gas and all that, I think we have many opportunities here. So I just wanted to highlight those two. I don't want to take all the time necessarily. I want to thank you, Speaker Egal, for bringing us on and providing this opportunity to speak in this roundtable and this town hall. And I look forward to being able to work with anybody that may want to develop a partnership or alliance with the Navajo Nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And I agree, there's lots of tremendous opportunity as we go to the Small Business Development Center and the Council of Governments. I think it also bears mention that with the recent vote of the Public Regulation Commission of New Mexico implementing the Energy Transition Act, we're up for an investment in McKinley and San Juan counties and a portion of Rio Arriba County in excess of $1 billion in new renewable energy generation facilities and battery storage. So there's a good opportunity there and some good opportunities for Central Consolidated School District as well to have some support for the property tax base there with about $430 million being invested in that community. So I'd like to go now. We've got several economic development professionals and folks from government that do this work as well. We have Evan Williams. He is the executive director of the Northwest New Mexico Council of Governments. We have Cindy Jarvison from the Small Business Development Center, Jennifer Lazars from Gallup Tourism and Marketing, Jennifer Lee from the Small Business Development Center, and Anthony Demas, County Manager. I think we'll probably just go in that order and see if folks have an idea or two that we can take back to the legislature to try to implement a new policy to support your work in economic development. Evan, why don't I turn it over to you, and the floor is yours to share a few thoughts with us.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Thanks for the opportunity this afternoon. When we think about our regional economy, as Representative Garcia mentioned before we got onto the live stream, our regional economy feels like we went from life support to pronounced dead. And that has nothing to do with COVID-19. So you add that into the mix, and we really have issues here, as you heard from the Navajo Nation and from the others on the call. Our regional economy really needs everything we can get. We appreciate the Transition Act and those investments being made, but we will lose a generation of people, both because of COVID-19 and because of job loss, if we're not working together. And I really appreciate you bringing us together on this call. There's a couple things we think about from a regional perspective, and I did want to see who Navajo Nation's point person on the rail project is, who loses sleep over that project, because it's important on these big long-term regional investments, like several that I'll mention here. But I think number one is broadband. That's a universal thing that's just needed here in Northwest New Mexico, Navajo Nation, the Four Corners. There's just a gap here, and we could definitely use New Mexico's support, especially on middle mile, last mile, to help with economic development. The second thing we think about and try not to forget about is Navajo Gallup Water Supply Project, and making sure that project finishes. I was grateful to hear Council Delegate Freeland mention that they are working on investments to take that water to real people in real time. And we're just confident working with the Navajo Nation that we don't lose sight of that $1 billion+ project going into our region to bring water, which is a vital component of economic development, health and safety of our people. We also need an investment in healthcare. We've been working on the Navajo Nation's project of replacement of the GIMC, the Gallup Indian Medical Center. That would have been a game changer having that facility in place pre-COVID-19. And so that's again something I think the state, all of us can support and hope that when there's a federal package for big infrastructure, that project is first and foremost. That may be our only opportunity to make that needed investment in healthcare for our whole region. And lastly, is just on the regional economic development. I know you've heard from Representative Lundstrom, whose day job is actually in the field of economic development as well, about having ready to go sites, using the assets we already have and leveraging those for good paying jobs to make sure our people can remain within the four sacred mountains of our area. And so I'll just leave you with that because I know there's enough other speakers to go, but I appreciate the time and I do appreciate the partnership with everybody on the phone.
Thank you. Cindy Jarvison from the Small Business Development Center. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Speaker Egolf. I appreciate being part of this panel and given the opportunity to speak on behalf of some of my clients. We have been pretty much in the trenches since March, helping and guiding small businesses through the assisting them with the disaster assistance programs like the EIDL, the PPP, and helping them maneuver through that process and understanding their responsibilities for obtaining these federal dollars. So now that we come to the end of some of the deadlines, like August 10th, well, they have actually until August 8th to apply for a PPP. And there is a deadline of August 8th to get them to have, to request for forgiveness on their PPP loans. So just guiding and getting a lot of these, or assisting clients and small businesses with these requirements, because it can be confusing and it's inundating, and they don't, there's some requirements they don't understand. So, you know, they feel comfortable approaching us and we're helping them with that process. It's been quite a task. The other thing is, you know, a lot of what I'm going to say will probably just be repetitive because of Bill Lee brought up a lot of things that I hear a lot, and liability is huge. These businesses are afraid of, because it could break them, this liability on the COVID, and they really care about their employees. The other thing is just grant funding. I know that there's recently the Small Business Recovery Loan was just rolled out, and a lot of my businesses are like, loans? No, we need to see more grants. We need help. And so that's sort of what I'm hearing. They don't want to listen to a loan option, and so that's troubling to me. But we will assist them with that process as well. So I haven't had anybody had an interest in that New Mexico Small Business Recovery Loan just yet, but we're ready. We're ready to assist them. The one need that I hear a lot is reliable internet access. If we want to have a contactless ordering system, our businesses need access to that reliable internet access. And I've seen it even, you know, working remotely. So that's been really tough. So if that's going to be like the #1 priority, I think that would be great. That's like my little wish list. But and the other concern that we had today, we had a New Mexico SBDC network directors meeting this morning. It was brought to our attention that there's going to be an issue with supply chain management, and it may be political, and I'm not doing the politics, but the transportation issues across the states, delivery will be interrupted, and cost will increase real soon. So we just really need to be ready for that, and that could put a lot of burden on our small businesses.
Thank you. As you talk to your clients about the Small Business Recovery Loan Fund, I would urge you to remind them, we did a couple of things with that bill to try to make it attractive to folks that don't want to take on debt. One is the interest rate is half of prime. So
Right.
that's 1.25%. For the first 3 years, it's an interest-only payment, and loans go up to $75,000. So the payment is going to be very, very minimal. And if at the end they're unable to pay the amount off at the end of 3 years, it converts into a 10-year note, still at 1.25%. So it'd be a very small payment. And we also require no collateral and no personal guarantee. So the business owners are not, it's not like with, a regular SBA loan. There's no personal guarantee. So if there is a default or, inability to pay back, there's no recourse against the business owners. There's no recourse really against the business either. It's one of we had the debate on the floor where we say, we hope folks can pay it back, but understanding that very, very many won't. So the anti-donation clause prevents us from having a grant program using any state money. So we tried to make it as easy as possible.
And the interesting thing is, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
and I'm going to be part of a conversation tomorrow with the Navajo Nation Division of Economic Development about $60 million direct assistance to small businesses. So I'm really excited to see what that garners. Our Small Business Development Center covers McKinley County, which goes into Navajo Nation and the Zuni tribe. And I'm really struggling with assisting Zuni small businesses as well. So don't forget our neighbors, the Zunis, whatever we could do to help them. It's been really difficult. The stories I hear from Zuni are it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, yes. That's a very good reminder. Thank you. Next, I'll pass the mic, so to speak, to Jennifer Lazars from the city of Gallup. Jennifer, the last time I saw you was in Gallup a few years ago at one of our Jobs Listening Tour events. You must be doing a good job because you're still there. And so welcome to the session, and the floor is yours to give us ideas for what the legislature should be doing to help support your work.
Thank you. The secret to longevity is flexibility. During the pandemic, I've been acting as I've been in the role of acting public information officer with the city. So I've had a substantial amount of contact with our businesses and different things. And I want to circle back to something Mayor Bonaguidi said at the beginning. Speaker, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the city of Gallup only received 50% of the BIZ funding, the Behavioral Health Investment Zone funding, that we had received in previous years. And I think that that's something that it's not just a thing about caring for our family that's on the streets, but it's something that impacts our businesses when we have mental health issues running rampant in our community, now paired with a COVID issue, and we do not have adequate funding to support that population. And so they end up in the streets and they end up in business storefronts, and they challenge the reputation of our community, which, coming full circle, is one of the #1 issues that we're concerned about moving into the future. Having had a lockdown that's had a national news interest impact, when you look at trying to recruit businesses to our community, trying to sustain supply chains in our community, we're hearing consistently that people are afraid of Northwest New Mexico. And I don't know what some of the solutions can be on the legislative floor with regard to policy, but it's starting with what the infrastructure we have, which is improving our behavioral health investment zone. But secondary things like, one of my concerns as the tourism and marketing manager is that we are still promoting New Mexico for its beautiful assets and not just for COVID. Because if we only talk about COVID in a couple years, we've lost all of the ground that we've put into New Mexico True as a brand since 2012. So that's a big concern. And that's not just mine. And I've heard that from other regional partners, that tourism was the second largest economic driver in New Mexico. And it is really suffering. The tourism industry as a whole has suffered in the billions, and we're looking at restaurants and hotels. And so from a legislative standpoint, it's making sure that while we're changing our messaging, maybe we're not inviting, that we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul from one economic thing to another. the reputation of New Mexico and who we are is really important to remain intact. And we here in Northwest New Mexico have learned that the hard way when we can't get people to come into small businesses to fix coffee machines or to fix roof leaks because they think it's raining COVID from the sky. So when we look at what economic development is for retail, right now, of course, our first priority is going to be that business retention. And what can we be looking at the local, regional, and state levels to change the public relationship, but also, something we've come up with in the last year was, economic development through the state has largely been large industry based, and Patty Lundstrom has been doing an outstanding job of discussing with the state how can we also incorporate retail strategies and those things that can help the small business sector grow across the state of New Mexico, and not just large investors, because right now we're dealing with it's the small guys that are hurting, and that's going to turn all of New Mexico into ghost towns if we can't help the small guys too, and to continue to foster that entrepreneurial spirit that makes New Mexico so special. So, I guess to summarize those three things, it's number one, Gallup really needs help continuing to fund the behavioral health investment zone. Number two, making sure that from a tourism standpoint, we're maintaining some sort of marketing budget and preserving the positive image of New Mexico for the outside world, since we've made national news. And then number three, it's looking at economic development as retail and business retention, and not just large, big, huge projects, but what can we do on a smaller scale, and how can some of that money be funneled down through program development?
Those are great. Those are great points, and thank you. It is very true. That we have to walk a tightrope when it comes to correct and accurate, timely information about COVID-19, while at the same time maintaining New Mexico's longstanding reputation as a wonderful place to visit and do business. And it's a very good point. Anthony Demas is the county manager for McKinley County. We'll pass it on to you, sir. The floor is yours for some thoughts about what the legislature can be doing to support you in your work.
Good afternoon, everybody. And Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody about this important issue. We appreciate you and your time. As you know, our biggest concern is how we're going to replace the jobs that we've been losing in our area. Tri-State at the beginning of the year, and now the refinery just announced the last couple of days. The refinery is just under 300 jobs. Tri-State was just over 200 jobs, 220, I believe. And then the rumor of the coal mine closing down the next 2 to 3 years. Those are our top three taxpayers. Tri-State alone was the number one at just under 2.7 million tax base for the county. The mine is at 2.1, and the refinery is just at 2 million. We're talking a lot of money and a lot of jobs in a short time period. So our biggest goal is how we approach this as a region and as a state, working together, the Navajo Nation, state, local, city, county, tribal, on how to replace these jobs. I know there's a big announcement from PRC last week about the 350 megawatts coming to the area. That's in our county, Pueblo Pintada. We understand it's going to be a big project, 350 megawatts. But in the long run, it's not going to be a lot of jobs. It's going to be a lot of construction jobs at the beginning, and then 3 or 5 permanent jobs in the long run. So it's those kind of things. And how does the city, the county, the state, the Navajo Nation work together to recruit these jobs and continue the other companies to make them stay, make them solid, as in the paper company. So it's stuff like that. How do we work with the state, the nation, and the city to continue these and get these jobs back? And these are not just regular jobs. These are high-paying, quality jobs. It's going to hurt Cibola County. It's going to hurt us, Tri-State, and the refinery. The refinery was high-paying jobs, and just like Cibola with Tri-State, we're going to miss all that different turnover money. Those people are buying houses. They're buying groceries and foods and other things, and that money rotates 4, 5, 6 times over. So that's going to be a big hurt on us. So those are the kind of things that we think about, is how do we work with state, Navajo Nation, with Cibola, city, the county, and the tribe moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, the plans of economic diversification are certainly easier said than done, but we are taking some, concrete steps. And as we get through the budget crisis that the state is facing, we are making sure that we're not reducing our state's investments, not just in the Rio Grande corridor, but all over the state to make sure that economic development stays fully funded and doing the good work to provide the next generation of jobs for New Mexico. But thank you for that. Now I'd like to go to Jolene Begay. She is a teacher at Gallup McKinley County School in language arts. I believe you're at Gallup High.
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
welcome.
Hi.
We just would love to hear what your school is doing to prepare for the upcoming school year, and what you'd like to see as we get into the fall, past Labor Day and into the winter semester.
Okay. First of all, I want to make certain that this is heard. I've spoken to a lot of teachers within Gallup McKinley County, and the bottom line is teachers are scared. There's a possibility of dying this school year, a possibility of infecting our families, and some teachers have retired. I know 3 of them, and some have even gone to the lengths of making their wills for this year. And I know some teachers who are the sole primary care providers within their family, and if they should get hospitalized or God forbid they die, who's going to take care of their family? And I know a teacher personally who has 1 daughter in high school, 1 daughter in elementary, and he's a teacher at another elementary school, and he's afraid that their points of contact is going to be like 6 degrees of separation, and he's actually going to start building a shed outside to live in for the entire school year so he doesn't have contact with his family. So that is, I think, the main concern of our teachers. As far as going into the school year, a lot of us are uncertain as to what's going to happen. We're in ebb of confusion. I know that from the 17th through September 7th is supposed to be remote learning, but a lot of outlying communities around Gallup don't have access to the internet. So that's going to be a huge problem. And as far as I know, the district's not offering other mediums of learning as an option, meaning that packets can't be sent home, I don't think. So it's going to force some impoverished families to send their kids to school, which I don't think is fair to a certain degree. And to prepare for the year, we have been asked to create online lessons for all of our classes, a PowerPoint for every lesson every day. And when September 8th comes around, we're going to be teaching simultaneously in person with the actual students. And for the kids who have chosen to do their online learning, we'll be teaching to them simultaneously. So I don't know how that's going to work out. That's going to be an experiment. And we also need to learn several new technological platforms. There are some teachers who don't know how to do a PowerPoint, and we recently got rid of PowerSchool, which was our main way to enter attendance and grades. So we'll have to learn that, and then learn Microsoft Teams all within next week to prepare for the following week. And so during the school year, if kids do come back, and we do have a hybrid model, we're wondering if elementary school students are going to be required to wear masks, and how's that going to be handled in class? And what about our special education students? Some may have difficulty with their mask and some may have health complications. How do we take care of them? And then as far as monitoring students in high school and middle school, if a student refuses to wear a mask or purposely coughs on another student or a teacher, what are the consequences? Are there going to be any consequences? And despite staggering the schedule, having certain students on different days, we don't think it matters to the teacher because we're going to come in contact with every single student for an hour at a time with an enclosed setting, which is what every expert has told us to avoid. And I think the virus is preventable. It's very preventable. It takes a good mask, social distancing, and not gathering in groups. But it seems to me that we are being asked to go in in reverse. Um, I think the CDC has changed their guidelines from 6 feet to 3 feet. So I don't know what that's going to look like in the classroom. And some classrooms have poor ventilation systems. And if we're going to be stuck with a group at a time for 7.5 hours a day, we increase our chances of getting COVID-19. And that is our fear. And personally, I was raised by my grandparents, and I know a lot of students are raised by their grandparents too. And if a student should get infected and they take that home, there's a likelihood the whole household could become infected. And some Navajo homes are multi-generational, and that whole family might be wiped out. I heaven forbid, but I do believe that we owe it to our children, our kids, that they see their families when they graduate from high school. And I think all the representatives here, you have an opportunity to prevent some tragedies. That's it, and I thank you very much.
You make a lot of excellent points, and you know, I was very encouraged with the governor's decision to stay remote at least through Labor Day. And you know, I don't have any special insight or knowledge about her thinking after Labor Day, but I do know the conversations that I have had with her about returning to school. She is very concerned and very aware about the concerns of educators and staff in the schools. We've got a colleague of ours in the House, Debbie Sarignana, a representative from Albuquerque. She told me that in a normal day in her classroom, 170 kids come through. And, you know, and it just the likelihood of an outbreak or a spread with schools is very significant. You know, I'm a parent of two young girls, and talking to my other friends that have children, parents are just as concerned, right? You know, that we don't want, and we're concerned for the teachers. You know, we love our teachers, and we want them to be safe and to be teaching in an environment that is safe to teach in, so that they're focusing on the education, not about worries about getting sick. And my sense is that the vast majority of people in New Mexico are willing to take it slow and do it right and put safety and health at the forefront. And we're going to all have to chip in to make sure that any kind of remote option for learning is one that is enriching for the students, because we also can't afford to have a whole generation of New Mexico's kids lose a year of their education. It's really hard, and it is incredibly complicated. And I'm encouraged that, and thank you for your advocacy on the issue, and thank you for letting us know your concerns and your thoughts. And they're going straight from you to me and back to the governor's office. You know, I'm happy to convey your concerns to her and let folks know how you're feeling. But Ms. Begay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We have been joined by Lashana Tso, who is Chief of Staff to the President of the Navajo Nation, and we also have Delegate Pernell Halona. So those are, if you want, Madam Chief of Staff, Delegate Halona, if you'd like to offer us a few thoughts for how things are going on the Navajo Nation. We've heard from Vice President Leiser. I know that, Lashana, you're representing President Nez. If you have any thoughts to share with us or anything you'd like us to hear today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and representatives of the New Mexico House of Representatives. Just a small correction. I'm actually the Chief of Staff for the Office of the Speaker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so minor correction.
Boy,
No worries.
of all the people to make that mistake, I can't believe it was me. So sorry about
No
that.
problem, no problem. I am actually going to defer over to Council Delegate Pernell Halona to offer a few words before I speak.
Go ahead and take out your card.
Delegate Halona.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can. Great. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Pernell Halona, Delegate Halona from Navajo Nation. I just want to been listening on all the speeches that everybody's been given. And then the biggest concern that I have is the students going back to school. You know, when you hear all the stories around the nation where even the 3 teachers that were doing online class training in Arizona, and they all got sick, and the one of the teachers had passed on, and there were only 3 in the classroom. And so that really makes me wonder how it's going to happen when we really get all the kids to the classroom. And then I didn't know that it was affecting our schools that much, where a lot of the teachers were at the retirement age. They wanted to stay, but then they're leaving, and all because of this virus that we're having to deal with. So those are the biggest things that is concerned with me. The other thing that concerns me is the job loss, and also, you know, the artisans, the people who sell out on the streets. They haven't been able to get any help from any of the programs that have been coming through. I have some people in my community that keep asking about it. And a lot of times they're just working to supplement their income. And because the job they have part-time jobs. And so they do extra work, extra things to sell jewelry, paintings, sand paintings, different things like that on the side. So, and they're having to struggle. So I don't know how we can, you know, try to help them with the CARES Act. On the Navajo Nation, we had tried to be working with the Net Chamber of Commerce. We tried to get some money allocated to them, but then the money got changed to different areas. I guess you know how that goes, because a lot of the funding that had to come back from the Navajo Nation that we had for our projects here. And when the budget went down south for the New Mexico, they had to pull a lot of that funds back. And so a lot of our projects are put on hold again, and try to wait till next year when we get this pandemic under control, and then the market comes back, especially in the oil field markets. So that's a lot of things we're dealing with all over the place. The biggest thing is the job loss. We've already were 40% unemployment rate on the nation. And so that number just grew exponentially after this pandemic hit. And so we're still struggling with those issues right now. As far as the Senate's concerned, and the Congress there, representatives, I think Washington needs some help over there where we can send the word. We need to try to support them into getting this next legislation set up. I guess it was called a herd legislation. I don't know if they renamed it or if it's going through in a different bill, but the Senate and Congress up there in Washington need to get moving on these because right now the numbers in New Mexico are relaxed a little bit. We're down a little bit, but on both sides of our state, the numbers are still high. And you know, I hear the news, I watch the news, and I listen and read a lot about it. It's not going to go down for a while. When they get up to that high, over 1,000 people a day are dying. When you're getting 400 or 500 new cases every day, those kind of things take time for it to relax and lay down. Right here on the Navajo Nation, the numbers are really gone low here. We're instead of getting 150 to 100 new cases a day,
We've been only getting around average about 30 to 35, 40 cases a day. And that's been for the last month. And so, the wearing the mask, cleaning hands, social distancing, staying away from the groups, large groups, those things are working. And of course, it took time for us out here at the Navajo Nation to get everybody to understand this new concept. And but it is working. The numbers are really, really a lot better today here on the reservation. Instead of having 15 to 20 fatalities a week, I think we're down to somewhere around 4 to 5 fatalities a week, and sometimes less, maybe 2 or 3. So those numbers are good, and we have to just stay vigilant and continue to do the things that we need to try to mitigate the situation. And hopefully the rest of the United States will catch up with us. And I don't know that a complete shutdown for 2 or 3 weeks might help them, but it seems like that's far reaching right now because the economy, the way things are happening in the world today, people are just, I guess they were cooped up for too long, and now they're back out. And of course, it's the middle of summertime. The other thing that looks good on the horizon is all these testing that they're doing for vaccines. So we're all praying for the scientists to get a vaccine out as soon as they can get one out. And then there's two vaccines that they're working with that I know that are look promising. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed and hope that those come to fruition. And then maybe by this time next year, we'll have a new normal again. And
hopefully sooner.
Hopefully
sooner.
Yes, lots.
Well, thank you, Delegate Halona. Ms. So, would you like to offer a final word? And then I'm going to ask Representative Garcia and Alcon and Johnson we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Ms. So, if you'd like to offer a few words, we'd love to hear from you on behalf of the speaker.
Thank you. I do appreciate you providing me a little bit of time to speak on behalf of this speaker who is unfortunately could not join the call today. He's currently facilitating a radio forum regarding hemp in San Juan County. So if you guys get a chance, you could jump on that forum maybe after this call. But we echo a lot of the same concerns that have been brought up recently by both Chairman Mark Freeland, as well as Vice President Weiser and Councilman Pernell Halona. We have been working diligently from this office, along with our Navajo Nation council leaders, regarding what the nation, how we can improve or even work towards reintegrating the workforce, as well as getting additional information on how the DOTI, which is the Dine Department of Education, is going to be reintegrating students this coming fall. And the recent closure, the announcement that was made by Marathon. So we're just keeping up to date on the different events that are occurring. It has hit the nation hard. And we are, we'd like to continue this partnership with each of you to ensure that the needs of the Navajo people are met. And if you guys ever need anything, need any information, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll leave my contact information with Devram. And that's all I have to offer at this point, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a few minutes left. Representative Alcon, Garcia, and Johnson. Actually, looks like we might have lost Representative Johnson. Maybe she'll get back on. Chairman Alcon, would you like to offer a few thoughts as we wrap up? think we're muted. Okay, we're working on, Chairman O'Connell, we'll work on your audio for a second. We'll go to Chairwoman Lundstrom and then see if we can get you, we can see your lips moving, but we can't hear you and you're unmuted. So we'll see if we can get that fixed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, and everybody on the web today. Thanks for hosting this. This is a great opportunity for us to talk to you and talk to you about some of the economic development concerns. I'm going to run through a few real quick, and just for the benefit of the group, every one of these speakers been stalwart in terms of supporting us. First was hold harmless. Of course, that's the loss of substantial tax base, particularly to the city of Gallup. Every year through the New Mexico House, through the House Tax Committee, of which the speaker serves on. He's always made room for us, and that's always been a big deal. Obviously, we would not be able to raise taxes based on our current economic situation. The second that he was a major supporter on, and we're going to continue working on, is the tri-state establishment of a new finance authority. The speaker understood that this was razor sharp focus for that particular area of the county, and looking at the highest and best use for that site. I'm going to be proposing some tweaking to that bill, Mr. Speaker, early on in the session, and that was co-sponsored by Representative Harry Garcia, Representative Al Cohn, and Representative Wanda Johnson. So we'll be looking for some tweaking and a low bill number again. I want to talk to you offline, Mr. Speaker, about a new fuel source concept that we've got regarding Marathon. It's no secret to you. You've seen my letters to the congressional delegation. I've actually just finished up an interview with a Santa Fe, New Mexican here in my office in Gallup regarding the need for a new hospital out here. You've often heard me speak of that, the need for a new IHS hospital. It's critical. We need that, particularly when we hear there's new strains of this virus. The facility that we have is outdated. We need a 21st century facility for our people in the area. And then last, I don't know if the mayor had a chance to talk about it, but he's been cooking up and working with some of the staff locally about a series of mayors' conferences regarding a recovery program for our community. You've often heard the term failing to plan is planning to fail. Well, if we were trying to implement or move forward our existing initiatives, that's based on pre-COVID. We're now in post-COVID, we think. So he's looking at moving and trying to move our economy as well as the other key partners. But with that being said, we're always looking for those best fit industries, trying to find all the incentives that we can to pull together. And don't be surprised if you don't see another bill from me this next session that deals with Marathon and a new fuel source. Thank you.
Good. All right. Should we try Representative Johnson? Are you there? Our caucus chair?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Speaker Egoff and Mayor Bonaguidi and Commissioner Lee and everybody. I've been listening to the call. I'm on the road. I'm driving. I'm taking my nephews to the airport. They came to visit me from Seattle, and so I hardly get to see them, so I had to do this on the road. I just want to thank everyone for their comments and their suggestions. I agree with Commissioner Lee. I think our community is doing their best to be resilient during this time. I see our small businesses putting up temporary outside ramadas outside their restaurants, and I see that our barbershops and hair salons are doing their best to stay in business. I'd like to continue to support the expansion of our glove factory. I heard Vice President Leiser on the phone earlier. Maybe he can continue to help us with that initiative. And of course, I'm working with the Navajo Nation. I heard my brother Mark Freeland talk about the CARES Act regarding broadband. we'd like to continue working with Sacred Wind to expand broadband development within our area. And of course, water infrastructure, utility, power line, bathroom additions, always important for my chapter communities. And then I will be working on a HUD grant to provide 30 continuum of care voucher housing for homeless people. So that project is coming up, and that should be helpful for our health and wellness, and then our COVID prevention and COVID care situation. So with that, I'd just like to thank everyone very, very much on the call. Mr. Speaker, thank you for accommodating this call and facilitating very good discussions. Thank you. Take care of yourselves, and God bless.
Thank you, Representative, and travel safe. Representative Garcia, do you have a few final thoughts?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. First of all, thank you for putting this meeting on. Thanks for everybody that joined the meeting because it's very important. One of the most important points that was said today was that teacher was talking about the schools and our kids. You know, we always forget our teachers because they're just as important as the kids are, you know. So that was a real good point. There's a lot of good points been made, and I appreciate everybody's input in this because that makes us, we get back in the session and stuff to work on these things, we can understand all the needs of these communities. It's very, very important because if you go in there not knowing what the needs are, and we have a lot of needs, Mr. Speaker, as Representative Chairman Armstrong said, you know, the paper mill is open now, but everything else, mines in jeopardy, the power plant's going away, the refinery's going away, and you know, we're in dire need of help in this part of the country, you know. Anyway, with that being said, I just wanted to mention what I did here lately in April. Between myself and Homestake Mining, we delivered 106,000 pounds of food and water to the Navajo Nation, and I'm delivering as we speak 100,000 pounds of water in 1 gallon bottles, and these are going to Alamo, to Hajali, Baca Chapter, Turu, Smith Lake, Mariano Lake, and White Horse. And this is just a good gesture because we know that people out there need it, and we thought that would kind of help them out, Mr. Speaker. Once again, thanks everybody for being on, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you for all your good work supporting all those chapters. I know it was a huge amount of work.